Commander John Sullivan, a veteran astronaut with a knack for cracking jokes even in the direst situations, was part of the Artemis 9 mission to the Moon. His crewmates were Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, a hotshot pilot with a wicked sense of humor, and Dr. Alexei Kuznetsov, a Russian scientist who could make even the driest geological facts sound fascinating. Their mission was simple: set up a new lunar base in the Sea of Tranquility. Well, simple on paper at least. One day, while Sullivan was out on an EVA, he was busy collecting rock samples and cracking jokes about lunar dust bunnies. Suddenly, he saw the lunar module lift off in the distance. His heart pounded in his chest as he watched the module ascend, leaving a trail of dust behind. He tried to radio Mitchell and Kuznetsov, but all he got was static. He was alone, stranded on the Moon.
Great,
he muttered to himself.
I always wanted a moon all to myself.
In the immediate aftermath of the lunar module's departure, Sullivan experienced a strange sensation. It was as if time had slowed down, the stars in the sky seemed to stretch and distort, and a wave of silence washed over the lunar landscape. It was an eerie calm that sent shivers down his spine. He noticed a faint, pulsating light in the distance, but dismissed it as a trick of his stressed mind.
Maybe it's the moon's version of a disco ball,
he joked to himself, trying to lighten the mood. His first thought was to conserve oxygen. He had a limited supply in his suit, and the lunar module was his only source of more. He began to ration his breaths, trying to make the supply last as long as possible. He also had to contend with the harsh lunar environment. The extreme cold during the lunar night, and the searing heat during the day. Knowing he needed shelter, Sullivan set about creating a makeshift camp. He found a small crater that offered some protection from the elements and used the lunar regolith to insulate himself from the harsh conditions. He used parts of his damaged EVA pack to create a rudimentary shelter, a small dome-like structure that was just big enough for him to crawl into. Inside, he had his suit's life support system, a few ration packs that he had on him during the EVA, a small tool kit, and the rock samples he had collected. It wasn't much, but it was home for now. 2 days passed. Sullivan was running out of oxygen and food. He was on the brink of despair when he noticed something strange. The stars seemed to be moving in an unnatural pattern. He realized that he was not alone on the Moon. The pulsating light he had noticed earlier seemed to be getting brighter and more frequent.
Looks like the disco ball is getting a power upgrade,
he quipped, trying to keep his spirits up. He began to see strange lights and hear odd sounds. He thought he was hallucinating due to oxygen deprivation, but the phenomena persisted. Then, he found a small, glowing object near his makeshift camp. It was unlike any lunar rock he had ever seen. When he attached it to his suit, it somehow replenished his oxygen supply.
Well, that's handy,
he said, marveling at the object.
I should patent this.
With his immediate survival no longer in question, Sullivan tried to understand what was happening. He noticed that the strange lights and sounds seemed to respond to his actions, almost as if they were communicating with him. He used his knowledge of mathematics and physics to create a basic form of communication, but he could never be sure if it was his imagination or if something was truly responding. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. Mitchell and Kuznetsov were calling him, sounding confused and worried. They claimed they had lost contact with him for only a few hours, not days. They had been in the lunar module the whole time, and it had never moved. Sullivan was stunned. He explained what had happened, and Mitchell and Kuznetsov were incredulous. They insisted that they had been in constant contact with Earth and that only a few hours had passed. Sullivan realized that he had experienced a time dilation, a phenomenon predicted by Einstein's theory of relativity, but never observed on such a scale. The pulsating light, the strange sounds, the glowing object, it all seemed to be part of a grand design, a test of endurance and adaptability, perhaps orchestrated by an unseen intelligence.
Guess I've been living in a sci-fi movie.
He joked, though the gravity of the situation wasn't lost on him. As Sullivan boarded the lunar module, he looked back at the lunar landscape. The strange lights flickered one last time before disappearing. He took the glowing object with him, hoping that the scientists back on Earth could make sense of it. Back on Earth, Sullivan was hailed as a hero. He shared his experiences openly, causing a stir in the scientific community. His story of time dilation and the strange, life-sustaining object sparked a flurry of research and debate. Some were skeptical. But the physical evidence of the glowing object and the recordings of the strange lights and sounds were hard to dismiss. In the following weeks, Sullivan worked closely with a team of scientists to study the object. They found that it was made of an unknown material and emitted a form of energy that they couldn't identify. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't replicate its life-sustaining properties. Sullivan was the only one who could activate it, leading them to believe that it was somehow linked to him. Meanwhile, Sullivan couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. He often found himself staring at the moon, wondering about the strange lights and the time dilation. He couldn't help but feel that he had been part of something bigger, something beyond human comprehension. Sullivan's life took a turn when he was asked to lead a new team of researchers dedicated to studying the phenomena he experienced on the moon. He accepted without hesitation, eager to uncover the mysteries that he had encountered. As he delved deeper into the research, he couldn't help but think about Mitchell and Kuznetsov. They had been his companions, his team, but they hadn't experienced what he had. He wondered how they perceived him now, how their relationship would evolve. He hoped that they would understand, that they would stand by him as they ventured into this new frontier of research. The moon, once a symbol of isolation and desolation, had become a beacon of hope and wonder for Sullivan. He knew that the moon held secrets, secrets that could change the way humans understood their place in the universe. He was ready to uncover them.
Who knows?
He said, looking up at the moon.
Maybe the moon's disco ball has a few more surprises in store for us.